What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hum Baby Baseball channel. And today we got to talk a little bit about Giants legend, future Wall of Famer, Brandon Crawford. He grew up a Giants fan. There's that famous photo of him at Candlestick Park during what was thought to be perhaps the end of the Giants' time in San Francisco before they were saved and stayed in the city. I was there at that game as well. I was at the last game in 1992, but the Giants ended up staying and obviously have won 3 World Series since then. Brandon Crawford was a part of 2 of them. He has been a key member of this team for many, many years. Unfortunately, as with every Major League Baseball player who plays long enough, at some point, your skills are going to start to diminish. You're going to start struggling to stay healthy maybe, and eventually you might not be able to play for just whatever old team you want, including the team that you came up with, including the team that you've been a part of for more than a decade. And Brandon Crawford has moved on and signed with the St. Louis Cardinals. But he has quoted as saying, "I was not wanted back," which we kind of figured, but he actually came out and said it. And we'll take a look at what he said, and we'll talk about what I think. I mean, is this the right move to go ahead and move on from Brandon Crawford? I actually made a video way back in 2019 talking about, is it time to move on from Brandon Crawford, because he was struggling at that point in time. And it turned out that he had this monster year in 2021. There were talks of MVP at some points during that season. The Giants themselves put out a video with my voice basically talking about how I was wrong and a lot of people were wrong, talking about perhaps if Brandon Crawford had lost it. Well, obviously at that point in time, he did not. But at this point in time, well, even the Giants front office seems to think that maybe Crawford just doesn't have enough to offer moving forward. In an interview with The Athletic, he said, "The bottom line is I was not wanted back by the one person whose opinion matters. So I went with a team that gave me a major league contract. The Cardinals have a long history and tradition. I've admired and respected the way the Cardinals have played throughout my career and the way the organization has been run. But the bottom line is I wanted to come back to the Giants. That was obviously the ideal situation." Crawford said he made his feelings known to Zaidi in November when the club president detoured from the GM meetings in Scottsdale, Arizona, and suggested an off-site face-to-face meeting. Crawford told Zaidi he was not seeking to reclaim his role as the everyday shortstop. So he realizes he's probably not going to be the everyday shortstop, but he wanted to play multiple positions while mentoring Giants rookie Marco Luciano and other young infielders. He said he'd be happy in a support role while spending another season making baseball memories for his 4 oldest children. What happened is he talked to Zaidi. Zaidi told him that the best he could do is a non-roster invitation to spring training where you would have to try to earn a spot on the roster. Crawford said that was the nail in the coffin. Now, it makes sense from Crawford's point of view that if you have a major league offer out there, a major league contract, that you would take that instead of coming back to the Giants as a non-roster invitee. Zaidi also responded and talked about the situation. He said he's been one of our most popular players and important players, and we negotiated a 2-year extension. That was after that amazing 2021 season. He earned that extension. We were very happy about it. Unfortunately, it didn't play that well. We'll talk stats in a second, but he confirmed what Crawford said he had interest in coming back, was open to a different role. The main thing we discussed internally was the challenge of the fit, because of his status in the organization would actually make this supportive mentorship role challenging for him, even with the best of intentions. And right now the Giants we're pretty much stacked in the infield, especially after the Matt Chapman signing. I mean, I can't even, off the top of my head, Matt Chapman, J.D. Davis, Marco Luciano, obviously Tyro Estrada is going to be holding down second base. Then over at first base, we have Wade. We also have Flores, and I know there's a couple others. I mean, we have a lot of infielders right now. There's just not room for somebody who's had trouble staying healthy and productive. He even admits, Crawford does, that he probably couldn't play every single day anymore. He says, I don't even want to play every day because physically, I'm not sure I could do that anymore with how much I've been hurt the last couple of years. To transition to a role player makes sense, so I feel I could have navigated around that. Could have, but the Giants right now are in a tough spot after last year. Basically, that meltdown at the end of the season where the Giants were looking okay, competing for a wild card spot, and then things just fell apart. And the fans were pissed off and were getting impatient with Farhan Zaidi. Brandon Crawford had a negative 1.3 WAR last season and hit under the Mendoza line, 194, a 273 on base percentage. That's supposed to be your batting average. That's the on base percentage. OPS under 600, and just dreadful performance. And even defensively, I saw more defensive lapses, more errors. It didn't seem like even his defensive advanced stats aren't that impressive anymore. And he's obviously still going to make great plays. He's got great hands, and he's just a natural fielder, and he works really hard. And clearly a skilled player with 13 years of big league experience, and that's why the Cardinals signed him. But unfortunately, every ball player reaches this point. Most of the time, if you play long enough, you're going to get to that point where you're not going to be able to just play where you want. You're not going to be able to contribute like you once could, and you might have to go play 1 year or two elsewhere. We see it. It's such a pattern in the history of the game, going back to Willie Mays. Willie Mays had to play one last year in New York with the Mets. I've seen a lot of great players come through San Francisco. Joe Carter played in San Francisco. Eric Davis played in San Francisco. Hell, Duke Snider, a Hall of Famer for the Dodgers, played one last really poor season in San Francisco. It happens all the time, and I would not be surprised at all if this is Brandon Crawford's last year. If he, doesn't play that well and gets a few at bats and hits, I don't know, around 200, and that's going to be it. But I don't know his whole situation or anything, and I understand wanting to continue to play, but I would definitely consider retirement after that last season. But I do get why, man, maybe he worked hard in the offseason. He thinks he's got more to offer. That's the way of the athlete. Always confident, always want to come back, always trying to get that one more season in. But it doesn't seem likely, but you don't want to count anything out. Brandon Crawford did have that great 21. I thought he was done before that. So you never know. Maybe Crawford's going to come out and have a nice season for St. Louis. But I can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing if I was in Farhan Zaidi's shoes. I would have had to say, look, we are just stacked right now in the infield. We got to do better than last year. We have to step forward with this team. And right now, at this point in your career, we can give you a non-roster invitation to spring training. It's the best I can do for you. And it's nothing personal. And he's a legend and all that. But this is the nature of sports and professional sports and Major League Baseball. I don't care who you are. If you're not productive anymore, I'm sorry. Can't just keep bringing you back. Now, Barry Bonds, that was a different situation back in 2007. Bonds was still productive. Bonds should have helped, if not the Giants, some team back in 2008, but that was a whole different situation. But best of luck to Brandon Crawford over in St. Louis. I happen to agree with this move for Farhan Zaidi to not bring him back right now. Time to move on. It hurts. It sucks. I wish he could have retired a Giant, and maybe he will. Maybe something will happen, and he'll end up not making the team out of spring training. But right now he's got an MLB contract, so that doesn't seem likely. But we'll see what happens, but best of luck. It's going to suck on the back of that baseball card to see that 1 year in St. Louis, if it is indeed his last year. But you guys have a great day. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Let me know, and we'll talk to you next time.